we are here with a very special panel in honor of Mother's Day. I'm sure you guys can tell we are a group of mommy and daughters. Hi.
Yay!
Yay! So we're going to do things a little bit differently because we want to make sure we introduce ourselves, but I'm going to have the moms introduce their daughters and the daughters introduce their moms. Okay? So we'll go first. This is Deacon Andrea. She's my mom.
Oh, you're not going to say anything about me?
Oh, you're a wonderful person.
There you go. Well, this is my daughter, Maya LaBoo, and she's a very sweet, very kind person.
Thank you. This is Lisa and
Hi, everybody. My name is Sister Lisa Asari, and this is my daughter, Nana.
Hi, this is my mom, Lisa.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. I'm Deaconess Corlette Mays, and this is my daughter, Chandra Knight.
So again, I'm just excited to have this conversation. It's nice to see mom-daughter relationships. So
yeah, that can be very complicated, mother-daughter relationships.
Look at Nana. Like, yeah, I know.
Like, yeah, I know. You know, so I think one of the things we want to do tonight, we have just a couple questions, but really just talk about the relationship. Well, first of all, being a mom and what does that mean? That's a big title. It's a big title, and it comes with a lot of responsibility. You know, we take care of our families. You know, we do schoolwork, and moms. Oh my gosh, Lisa, you're in the middle of the school thing. I cannot imagine being teacher. And Chandra, I don't know if you have kids, but if you have your teacher, your janitor, you're doing everything now. So it's just a time for us to celebrate moms, but also talk about, you know, how do we grow our children? How do we grow children? You know, and how do they turn out? How do they turn out? So.
Yeah. So like, how? Because I'm not a mom, so I don't have an answer to that.
I'm just circling the airport, waiting on that one. Really.
So I actually do have two kids. I have two girls, and I didn't know how much I needed my mom until I was a mom.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you see my mom; she's amazing. So she always has makeup on, and she's beautiful, and she's smart, and she has her doctorate degree, and she's been married for 45 years to the same man. And I've always kind of been in awe of that. And when I had my own girls, I had no idea what I was doing and what I was getting into. And so I'm a very independent person. And so I like to figure things out on my own, but there's no way you can figure out a mom on your own.
Yeah.
And so I had to call my mom like all the time and ask her just crazy questions that she probably doesn't even remember from 40, 30 years ago. I just really needed her as a friend, mom.
Yeah.
So
do you find yourself, because I remember having that same feeling. You know, I had my first child when I was 26, and I was just not prepared. You know, I went into the hospital asking for a social worker because I thought I was a teen mom. Like for services. And they kept saying, you waited a while to have a child. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not prepared. So, Chandra, do you find yourself doing things like your mom, saying things like your mom used to say? You know, I find my mom coming out in me in ways that I never thought that they would. You know, I say things, I'll express things the same way. It's just I absorbed it and didn't know it. So, do you find doing that with your girls?
I do. And especially because I have girls. So I can see a lot of myself in my oldest daughter. And so I hear myself saying the same things that my mom used to say to me. And I don't even know where they come from. they just jump out of my throat. But I do look to her and try to get advice from her. And so I follow a lot of the same things, not exactly, but a lot of the same things that she did because they worked.
Yeah. And we don't realize they worked until we're in the middle of it. Like, wow,
I know.
Mom was a genius.
That's our least favorite thing to say is that our mom's right about something. But
she actually took all the work. She actually took the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to say the same similar things that, we went through the same mother-child relationship when, she was younger. We had our ups and downs. And it really wasn't until she became a mother that she kind of understood where I was coming from sometimes. And I think over the years, our relationship has really matured now, in that we can have an appreciation for each other. Because like she said, she was a very independent child. She made her own choices. She was going to do what she was going to do. And while I still supported her, whether I was in favor of her choice or not, we still kept our relationship going. And to this day, our most precious times, I think, are when we just spend time with each other, whether it's shopping or going to lunch or just sitting on the couch and talking. Those are our most special times, I think.
Yeah. Times when you're not doing anything, that makes an impact. So, Sister Lisa, one of the things I always ask or talk about is the life lessons that we get from our parents, our moms, and what are some life lessons we want to pass to our children. Are there any life lessons? It's a question for anybody. Are there any life lessons that we got from our moms or our parents or whoever raised us that we want to pass on to our kids? What are those things, those wise old things, never leave the house with, out clean underwear, those type of things?
I actually got a lesson like that from my mom, and I passed it on to my oldest daughter, who is 23. And she actually gave me back the lesson when she bumped into Bishop one day at the grocery store. She said, "Oh gosh, Mom, this is why you tell me to always get myself together. There's Bishop." And I said, this is So I think there's a lot of life lessons, but I'll certainly say that my older kids are much older than Nana. And so I feel like they taught me lessons sort of the first go around. And when I had her, I was I guess you would say advanced in age. I was up in age as compared to the first round. And I think I mothered differently. This second go around, I'm definitely more tired, but I think I'm a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more laid back in terms of just the parenting approach in general. So I would say I've certainly gotten lessons from my own mother, but lessons from myself in terms of, raising the first crew and then, of course, raising this young lady.
So Nana, what do you think is the biggest life lesson so far? Because you still have a lot of life ahead of you. But what would you think the biggest life lesson you learned from your mom is so far?
I think the biggest life lesson I learned from my mom is always treat people with kindness, because you have to always be nice to people no matter what. So that's something she taught me.
That's a good one, Mom. That's a really good. That's a good one, and that'll carry you far in life. It will. It will. That's a good job, Lisa. Good job.
I could probably say I learned that from my mom too. Because
Sorry.
Why are you laughing?
You're much nicer than I am.
Yeah, how does that work out? But like you said, you never know who you're going to meet, right? And it's good to always be nice to someone because you don't know who they know also. And sometimes when you're not nice to someone, that can come back on you. You don't want that.
Right. I was listening to you, Lisa, talk about how we're different parents than we are now. I'm such a different person now than I was when I was younger. Half the stuff that I cared about then, I could care less about now. So I think and Sister May's Miss, I'm sure you can echo this with your grandchildren, Andra. I'm sure she's a different person with the kids.
Very much so.
Tell us a
She
little
says
bit
that
about
all
that.
the time. She's always like, "Who are you?" When it comes to the grandkids, I was like, "I'm the same person. What are you talking about?" But
She tells me that she's like, your daughter, she's just so sweet and she's so spirited. She has so much energy, such a great love of life. And I'm like, who are you right now? You are the same person who used to like throw shoes around the house and yell at us to pick up our backpacks off the floor. Like, you're still that person. But she is like the most sweetest, most amazing, nicest grandmother. So
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I laugh at that. I tell people, I hope I can say this, but I said God created menopause for a reason, because there's no way I could go back and do half the stuff that I was doing before. There's a reason. There's a reason why that exists. One of the other things that, in terms of creating memories, one of the things I tend to keep in mind with Maya and my children is that, every interaction we have with the child counts. Everything counts, particularly for moms, for parents, particularly for moms, because we sort of set thermostat sometimes in the house. Mom's happy.
You gotta keep mom happy.
Keep mom happy. Like we learned Sunday.
Lappy happy.
Keep Lappy happy. Keep mommy happy.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it's good to laugh. I'm glad we're having this conversation. It's good to laugh and exchange and so. But what's a funny memory that you have of your mom, or something that you all remember doing together? What's something funny that you remember? Got anything?
I do.
Go ahead, Chandra. We got your back. You can go ahead and talk.
My mom is really, how can I describe it? She's like very funny and like full of life. So she's very big on like singing and dancing around the house. And so if she hears a song that she really likes, or it doesn't even have to be playing, it could just be playing in her head, and she'll just start singing and dancing, and we'll like dance around the house. So that's one of my favorite memories, is that she was always ready to like break out into song and dance. So it was really fun.
And I still do that. I'll just scream out words or songs and lines, and my daughter tells me that she's starting to do it herself.
I do it with my daughters.
Okay. What about you, Lisa?
I think for us, it might be doing some of the dancing as well. Nana has me doing all these TikTok videos, so I get out of those. But we do a lot of things. All of it. We do a lot of, we cook together, and we've actually started drawing and painting together. We have these art competitions, and I think the quarantine has forced us to be creative in terms of all the things we do together. But we are definitely maximizing this time and really trying to create memories, because we just don't get time like this to be together.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point.
Yes.
And Nana, what about you? Do you have a funny memory of your mom? Something that makes you laugh about your mom?
Let's see.
There's so many to choose from, right?
During every single song she puts on, she always just starts randomly clapping loudly. It's loud and it disturbs everybody, but it's so funny at the same time.
So, moms, dancers, and singers.
Yeah. I think I have one, but I don't get me in trouble.
Here we go. Go for it.
So
we'll protect you, Maya. Go ahead, girl.
Thank you. We were watching TV one day, And we like to learn new stuff and learn new words.
I know where she's going.
So mom's having a moment. It's like, oh, mesogenetic. Ooh, what's that word? Let me look it up. Mesogenetic. I'm like, Mom, misogynistic? Oh. But why that's one of my it's one of my favorite memories because we had the biggest laugh. And that's something I love about my mom is that she can have a fun time. She can laugh and
All by myself.
yeah.
Yes.
So mesogenetic.
Mesogenetic. Remember that. It's a different variation. That's all. And one of the things, particularly now, I think is difficult. We talk a lot about it in the Gems ministry. It's hard raising girls. Since we're, it's just the girls on here tonight. It's hard raising girls in this society, because there's so much pressure to look a certain way, be a certain way, have your nails done, have your hair done. There's a lot of pressure. It was hard raising a girl. I know boys have their own children, but it's hard raising a girl to feel good about herself, no matter who she is, no matter how she looks. It's hard to instill that. So one of the things or questions what are some of the challenges to motherhood that we've had to face? I know I've had some. I've had some.
Well, what were some of your challenges?
Some of my challenges, part of it was Maya and I are very different people. We're very different. She's got her father's genetics. She's kind of quiet.
So.
I come into a room, I start talking, and I'm all over the place. So I tend to have a very big personality. And so it was hard sometimes to accept her quiet personality and let her walk in that confidence and not feel as if I was covering her or smothering her. So it's a difficult. I found it to be a difficult balance because partner, get up and say something. But you have to accept children for how they are. Just because they're not like you doesn't mean that they're wrong. So it's a challenge, I think, to raise a child who's different than you and help them be self-confident about themselves and self-assured and feel good about themselves. It's tough. It's tough these days for girls.
I would have never known that because you've always been very supportive of me. You're beautiful. You can do all things. So I would have never known that. It was a challenge for you.
It's a challenge because it's a conscious effort. It's a conscious effort. When you have someone who's different in personality, which is great, but you don't want to overshadow the person. And I'll tell you a lesson that I had to learn. I talk a lot, if you haven't figured it out by now. I had a friend who was a teacher, and she asked Maya, when you were about 7, she asked Maya, how are you doing in school? And I answered for her. And she said, stop. Why are you answering for her? And it sort of stopped me in my tracks because I had to think, oh my gosh, just because she's different than I am I taking her voice? Am I taking her voice? So things like that as a parent, as a mom, I think I have to be practiced that. So that was a bit of a challenge. Anything else you all can think? What's been a challenge to be a mommy? What's the hard part about it?
I would just say maybe what I've seen lately is just the world and all the technology and really trying to sort of navigate social media and all of the, like you said, the images, the messages, the social networking, and all of the things from the world that try to tell you what you should be. And so I think for me, it's really continuing to teach Nana, especially how to encourage yourself, how to encourage yourself, how to push yourself, how to be comfortable in your own skin, how not to be so influenced by all of the outside factors, and just to sort of remember who you are, and remember that wherever you go.
Yeah.
That's good. Nana, you have anything to add to that?
I agree with her. She taught me that over time, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Deaconess Mays, what about you?
I would probably say, like I said earlier, Chandra was a very independent child, and so I always wanted to be kind of involved in the things that she did. You know, I enjoyed spending time together. She was cool being by herself. You know, I was a girly girl. Um, her not so much. She's gotten better over the years. But so you know, I like to play dress up, go shopping, do all those kinds of things. She was like, eh. And she always just kind of had her own mind of how she wanted to do things, and I was always like trying to I don't want to say insert, but trying to you know, expose her to the things that I like to do. And, you know, I would get frustrated a lot of times, like, well, why don't you like this? And how come you don't want to spend time together and those kinds of things? And it's taken a while to you know, let her be her and you know, for us to acknowledge each other's space and the path that we're traveling on. So
Yeah.
Chandra, what about you?
Yeah, I think that when I was younger, I definitely just wanted to do my own thing. Like I was very comfortable kind of being just being. And um I'm not as an extreme of a girly girl as my mom is. So I didn't always want to go shopping and dress up and, you know, do that kind of stuff. But there's more to it than that. So over time, we've gotten, like she said, to be able to respect each other's spaces. And so now we can do lots of things together, a lot more in common than we have differences. So we spend a lot of time kind of celebrating what we have in common and what we like to do together.
Yeah.
Now, what's great for my mom is my older sister is an extreme girly girl. So they have a great time dressing up and wearing princess dresses and tea parties. So that's fun.
One of the things my mom always says that when I do have my daughter, that she's going to be just like her. So
We were just the opposite.
yeah.
We were just the opposite. See, my mom was the girl. I mean, she went to charm school. Okay, she went to charm school, and if you look at all of our pictures growing up, we're always standing sideways, and the foot is pivoted the right way, and she had that before Kim Kardashian ever thought about it. So that's what not me. She always said in the morning and all that. That's not me. So Chandra, I understand. So Maya is the girly girl. So it's skip the generation.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Okay.
I have a question. So, how do I ask this? How do you keep a lot of your, or passing on a lot of like your personal issues with confidence and being a girly girl and not being a girly girl? How do you keep from passing those insecurities to your daughter?
Passing the baggage.
That's a great question. I really try to focus my daughter on the fact of that she's God's child first. So no matter what you look like or what situation you're in, you have to remember whose child you are, and you are a child of God. And so you should act accordingly. Girly girl, not girly girl, tomboy, you're a child of God, and that is your first and ultimate makeup.
Right.
So really try to focus her on that, and that girls do run the world.
Yeah, I do.
Beyonce lyric. Great time to be a girl. So.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
And you know, and it's hard to not pass the baggage. There are things that I would consciously try and make an effort to do. I wasn't raised in a home where we did a lot of hugging and all that. Okay. So I made an effort in my mind with my kids, I'm going to hug you all the time, make sure you know I love you. I'm going to do all that. Maya, very much like you, has always been self-contained. She's always been a self-contained child. She can play on the floor by herself. I'm like, I know I'm good. I'm like, wow. Okay. But I say that because she hit around 10, and Maya's a thinker. And she said, Mommy, how come you never hug me first? I'm like, oh my gosh. Now, here I am. That's baggage. Here I am thinking I'm doing all this warm, fuzzy stuff and hugging her all the time. But she called me on the carpet with my baggage and said, you never hug first. And I explained to her, I couldn't say, oh, no, that's not right. Being still, I had to acknowledge my baggage. And say, Mommy wasn't raised in a house where we did a lot of hugging, but anytime you want to hug, let me know. It's probably not, well, here's a hug. Anytime you want to hug, it would be fine. So I think the thing that struck me first about that is that she felt open enough to ask me that question. To ask me, Mom, how come you never do that? But then I got really kind of scared and upset and thinking, what if she left my house thinking my mom never hugged me first? What if she left my house thinking my mom never hugged me first? There must be something wrong with me. Let me go find the hug from someplace else. So I say that because as moms, we never know the impression that we're having on our children, all of our children. We never know how our daily interactions are going to affect them, and I what I love about all of us that are on here, it sounds like we've opened up those lines of communication. Mm-hmm. I would always say, if I'm not hearing the bad stuff, you're not talking to me. I need to hear everything. So what's one of the things that you all have done to keep those lines of communication open? What have you done to make that happen? Because a lot of parents struggle with that. A lot of moms struggle with that. She won't talk to me, especially around the teenage years. She doesn't think I understand. How did you all get through that, or how are you getting through that?
So I think one of the things we do is we try to have family meetings. So the same way you have a meeting at the job, or you have a meeting, I guess, at church and a ministry, we try to have family meetings periodically. And it's sort of free, open space. Sometimes I do it as a mother with the girls. Sometimes we do it as a whole family. Sometimes it's mother and son. But we really try to create space for sharing so that people will say how they feel. And we open up in prayer. There's often tears because somebody's probably getting in trouble, but it ends. But we just find that it's healthy, and it gives us space and an ability for everybody to speak up, right? So that's one of the strategies that we use here.
Well, I could say that I like to talk to my kids all the time. They not so much, but I always keep trying. I call them every week, sometimes several times a week, and I'm like, I didn't hear from you. What's going on with you? So I always try to keep the lines of communication open, and make it so that they want to share. They don't always share, but I keep trying anyway, and. I think we've been getting better at it over the years. Wouldn't you agree, Chandra?
Yeah, I think that one big thing, one really big step that we took is I shared with my mom that after I became a mom, I also need you as a friend. So there's going to be some points in the conversation where my mom and I we have a safe word. So it's like, I'm going to say this word, and then I need to tell you and talk to you about something, and I need you to not react as my mom. I need you to react as my friend. So I need to be able to have that kind of level of intimacy with you. And it really worked. It's been great. So that really worked for us.
Yeah, no,
Kind of being able to separate the two.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
I
I'm
love
doing
that.
that.
That was her idea.
I love that. You did a good job, Sister May. I love that. And what it is that it shows that you can talk to me about anything. You know, and that's a hard thing. So, Chandra, I have a question for you. How do you negotiate this with your girls?
How am I what?
How do you use all this with your girls?
So I tried. So the youngest one, I don't refer to her as often because she's only getting ready to turn 1, so she doesn't even talk yet. My 5-year-old, I really use a lot. I talk to her all the time about everything, and I tell her, there's nothing really that you can't tell me. I may not always be happy about it, but we can always work through it. So I want you to be able to talk to me. It's okay to talk to me. And she is a natural talker. So I don't really have those types of issues because she talks so much.
Yes.
But what I really am working on with her is we do live in an environment where there aren't a lot of little girls who look like her. So I've been working really hard on her self-image and what she looks like and how beautiful she is. And I made a promise, she's of course only 5. So I made a promise to myself that as long as her hair was natural, then my hair would be natural. So then we could, kind of share in that journey together. So she didn't feel like anything was wrong with her hair or, her skin or her appearance, because I really want her to feel confident and be able to look to me and say, oh, I look like my mom. We're same.
Wow.
So I think it's working. She's only 5, so I'll have to let you know.
No, but that's good though. That's good, my child. That's good. That is good. That is a very, that's like a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But that is a really good topic or a really good thing for moms to hear. First, going back to what you said earlier, Chandra, about understanding who they are in Christ and understanding who they are in God. That God does not make mistakes. He does not make a mistake of how your hair looks. He doesn't make a mistake of how your legs look and how your arms look and how your nose looks. So having that firm foundation to help our children, particularly our girls, to recognize who they've been created to be. The complicated thing that you said is that if you're living in an environment or your friends that don't look like you, sometimes the standard of beauty of myself starts to go down. Because I don't look like the people that are on my school bus. I don't look like the people who are in my neighborhood. And that's a really big challenge, really big challenge. That if we're not careful as parents, I think it can go really wrong. Because I'm not sure they hear the message that something's not wrong with you, or that, something's wrong with how the world views this. It's not wrong with you. So that's a really, really, really good. And I love that if phones are hair is natural, your hair is going to be natural. I love that. I do.
So I also want to be very realistic, right? We have 3 groups of mom daughters who have good relationships, right? But not everyone has that. So I guess from the outside looking in, what would you say to someone who might not have that relationship to either grow in a relationship with their mom, or just some things that they can do differently to, establish that with the mom in their life?
So what advice would you give a mom who's struggling now with
No, I'm talking about a daughter's perspective.
Oh.
Like, what can you do to grow your relationship with your mom?
I think that you can try every night, try to sit down, engage with her, do stuff with her. Like me and my mom, every night we try to read a book and read a chapter of it. So I think that gets us closer together. And I think that you shouldn't be afraid to talk to your mom, because That's why she's your mom. She's here to listen to what you have to say.
Very nice.
That's great, Nana. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. Anybody else? And I agree with Maya. Sometimes people can look at things on the outside and go, "Oh my God, you have the perfect relationship. They're just so cute, and you're the daughter and boo 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 boo."
And we have a lot of fights too.
We have a lot of fights, and there's sometimes I just don't like you.
Yeah. Keep it real.
Let's keep it real.
Right.
But and so it's difficult for people who are struggling, to see how do I get to that point. And I think it's a challenge. I do. I think part of the challenge is understanding, first of all, where you are, and in your development. Teenage years are just hard. I was always a child who challenged. You tell her not to touch something and she wouldn't touch it, but she'd get really close to it.
But never.
So she challenged every step of the way. And so I was trying to raise her, particularly as a girl, to have a voice, to be able to speak to adults. But it backfired on me from time to time. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Don't speak so much to adults. So what advice would you give a mom and daughter, or a mom who's struggling with a relationship with a child now? What would you say?
I think for me, Deacon LeBou, I would say sometimes we see our own characteristics in our daughter, but we see them magnified. And so I find that sometimes it's the things that I don't like in myself that I see in somebody else. And so that kind of creates the tension. And so I think sometimes it's about just being honest. And like you said, owning it and sort of acknowledging what those things are. And working with your daughter to kind of get past them. And so I think you talked earlier about sort of carrying the baggage. I think sometimes it's we see some of the same struggles we have a little amplified, and it creates tension. And so I would say just to sort of acknowledge what some of those things are and try to work on yourself and your child at the same time if that's possible.
That's good. That's true. That's true.
And I would say perseverance. I think you just have to keep hanging in there. There's too many mothers, mothers and daughters that say, "Oh, I haven't spoken to my mother in 5 years," or the daughter says, "I'm done with her," or whatever. Like I can't imagine. I'm like, it's just like in a work situation. You have to keep hanging in there, figuring out if plan A didn't work. Okay, let's go to plan B. And you got to keep working through things and refining them and talking about them. And, and yes, you continue to argue and fuss, but eventually you have some wins, you have some losses, and you have to keep on going.
Yeah.
And eventually you both survive.
True.
And you come out with a relationship that's at the end you say, what, it was worth saving. So
yeah, I agree.
I think that, and I'll answer from a daughter's perspective. I think that one big point you have to remember, especially as you get older, is that your mom today is different than your mom back then. And so the decisions that your mom made, or the mistakes that you think your mom made, or, the arguments that your mom had, she was a totally different person back then.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to give her some grace because she was doing the best that she could with what she had. And you don't know the circumstances at the time. You don't always know the whole story. And she was just doing the best that she could. And that's something that took me a long time, to figure out. And when you look back and you realize, oh my goodness, when my mom was my age, she was doing X, Y, and Z. you know, that really gives you a different perspective.
Right.
And you only have one mom. You know, God only gave you one mother. And so there will come a time where you wish you could have said those things, or you could have had that argument, you could have gotten that clarification, you know, and so have those conversations, have the argument, you know, and then, like other people have said, move past it. You
Yeah.
go to the next day and try something else. Try a little, just a little tiny step forward. And eventually you'll look back and be like, man, I forgot that we didn't talk for those 5 years.
Just echo off of what you said, like moms, you look at our moms like they're superwomen, and they are, but they also are human and they make mistakes. So just having that perspective and putting the shoe on the other foot, I think, helps with finding that forgiveness.
Yeah, and owning that.
And owning, yeah.
And owning that, you know, you can spend a lot of time denying, like, no, I didn't do it. That, like, no, you did.
Yeah, you did.
You did. And that's you did. And it's okay to apologize to our children. Mom. It's okay to apologize. And so I really screwed that one up, didn't I? You know, and so
I just put that on tape.
I know it's on tape now. And Chandra, one of the things that I heard you say, which I really enjoyed hearing, is that is to me the ultimate lesson in forgiveness, is to accept people, even our parents and our moms, just as they are, and they're doing the best they can, and realize that we're just human. We're just human. You know, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to do things that may not make sense, but it's not done on purpose. It's not done on purpose. So getting to that point in a relationship, so all those moms who are struggling and who are struggling with their relationship with their daughters who are struggling with their mom, everybody in the house is just and we're all doing the best that we can. And so I'm going to echo what Sister Deaconess May said. You know, sometimes children are waiting for us to give up on them. How hard are you going to fight for this relationship? How hard? You say you love me, you're going to stick with me through thick and thin. You know, how much can I really give you before you abandon me and let me go? You know, I always say that children save their worst behavior for the people they love and trust the most. So it's a weird way of looking at it. So if you're getting the bad stuff, it's because they love and trust you the most, no matter what, you're going to be here for me. We just, as moms and parents, like Sister May said, we got to hang in there. You have to hang in there. It's worth it. It's worth it. I don't know about you guys, but I am enjoying my adult relationship with Maya. I fought for it. I had to get here. But I'm enjoying seeing her grow into a woman and all that stuff. You know, and Sister Lisa, to echo what you said, you're right. Sometimes we see the stuff that we need to change come out in our kids. I told my husband Maya was probably about, okay, I have an admission. I had road rage early on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so Maya was probably like 6. And she's in the back seat, and somebody cut me off. And she's like, "Get out of here! What are you doing? Why are you doing it?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" She absorbed all of that without me knowing. So I told my husband, "We got some work to do. We're gonna have to calm her down behind the wheel because
you need to keep working."
She still got it. Didn't work all the way,
No.
but it was an example. Exactly what you say. Children learn what they live, and we're teaching our children lessons without even knowing them. They're watching us all the time. They're watching us all the time.
All right, so one last question for you guys. Where is it? Okay, as a mom, what is the legacy that you want to leave your daughter?
I would say for her to continue to be the woman of God that she is, to continue to be the independent, fearless go-getter that she is. I was thinking of when one word to describe her would be tenacious. She doesn't let anything stop her from doing whatever it is she set out to be. And I love that about her. I wish I had more of it, but she's fearless in that way. And I think she's gonna pass that on to my grandchildren, my granddaughters, and I know she'll instill it in her girls. Um, and pretty much, everything else is going to fall into place from there because she's not going to let anything stand in her way of what she wants to achieve and accomplish for not only herself but for her family. So, and I'm good with that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I think I want to be able to pass on to my daughters the legacy that she comes from, that they come from a line of very strong, beautiful, smart women, and to know them by name. Because one of my favorite songs is A Great Work by Brian Courtney Wilson. And so I want them to know that uh, everything that they have didn't start with them. It didn't start with me. It didn't start with my mother. It started, with my mother's mother and my father's mother. And these are people who prayed for you and prayed for the life that you would have and the opportunities that you would have. And so I want them to know and feel that in their spirit so that they can then pass that on to their girls.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
And I would say similar to what has been said. I think for my girls, I just want them to let their lights shine. I want them to be the best version of themselves that they can possibly be. It's a gift to be a woman. It's a gift to be a girl. It's a gift to be a girl boss and all of the things, that we talk about. And so I really want them to cherish that and understand that they're special, and I just want them to sort of reach their full potential, whatever that is, whatever God has for them to do. I want them to do that and more, and more. So that's sort of the legacy. And I want them to know that they can, they know that they can.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I would probably echo everything that each of you all have said. When I think about it, for me, it's kind of simple. I want her and all my, but I want her to love herself as God loves her and see herself as God sees her. So I think when you have that foundation of knowing how uniquely wonderful God made each one of us. I always said there's only one of us. And that's a beautiful gift that God gave us. So always walk in the uniqueness of who God created you to be. And that should end up helping her and helping you feel powerful, special, and that you can. I'm a universe, Sister Lisa. That you can. You can. Mm-hmm. Yay.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I had a fun time with you all. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting
Thank
us.
you.
I want to say happy Mother's Day to all of you guys. And everyone watching.
Happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Happy Mother's Day to you.
Happy Mother's Day to my daughter, Sandra. Wish I could be there.
I know.
One day soon, when
It'll
the
happen when all
virus
this
is
is over.
done.
Yep.
And
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
all right, thank you.